I was a fan. Like I discovered the graphic novels in my 20s. A friend of mine introduced me to them, and like I love the graphic novels. Just the like art of them, like the primary colors and the very dark colors, and then Hellboy being the only red thing on the page, or Excalibur being the only yellow thing on the page. And I also like the big universe of like this pastiche of mythology. Like you have like you have like King Arthur, and then you have like Baba Yaga, and you have kind of all these things, Rasputin, who's like conjured Nazis, and you just kind of throw them all together, and it creates this weird, unique pastiche of mythology. And I think it's super fun. So yeah, I was a fan. What about you?
Totally green to it, I'm
Yeah.
afraid. I didn't know much. I'm sorry, but I was speedily updated by my kids and my husband, who know a great deal. But yeah, I didn't. It's not something I really. I don't know anything about graphic novels.
Yeah.
I do now, obviously.
Yeah. No,
Now, David, I read that you met with Ron Perlman for lunch to discuss taking over the role.
it was dinner, but yes.
Why was it important that you met with him?
Yeah, I mean, because when it was all going down and when we talked about doing it, I wanted to make sure that he knew and that all that stuff, and he did. And I reached out to him, and he was very, very gracious and really, he's just super gracious and like wanted to tell me that he really liked what I did, and then he thought I would do a great job, and it was just really nice. And so we went and had dinner, and he, it was mainly about us. It was me, Patton Oswalt, and Ron. It was mainly like that I just admired him as an actor, and I wanted to hear stories of his life, which is like what I do with all kind of great actors that I meet. I just want to hear stories about their life. But we did mainly that. And then at one point he did give me a piece of advice. It was nice because I take my work very seriously, and I sort of can go really. And he was like, "Just make sure to have some fun, kid. Jesus, you're playing Hellboy." And I was like, "Oh yeah, that's really good advice. Thank you, Ron."
It is good advice. You can forget, can't you?
I know. Yeah, I forget entirely. I'm like, yeah. So it was great. I mean, he's like a lovely guy too, and like so supportive, and so, yeah, it was wonderful.
And Sophie, Lady Hatton is an integral part of Hellboy's origin. What aspects of her did you enjoy playing the most?
I enjoyed all of it. I mean, I kind of look like a kind of aging Marilyn Monroe, and I'm blind, and I can see the future, and I get to kind of mutate. What's not to love? I had to kind of be led out into the set because I couldn't actually see through the contacts that I was wearing, so I really was blind throughout the scenes. And then I've seen some bits of some bits how they've kind of changed me, and it's incredible. So the whole thing was enjoyable and really huge fun, and I got to really sort of camp it up, which is I always like doing.
And David, Hellboy has an incredible aesthetic as well. How did you feel seeing yourself in the full get-up for the first time?
Yeah, I mean, for the first time, it was extremely disorienting, because I look completely different. And it's like it's like transforming into a rhinoceros or something. Like, it's not even human, right? He's like this creature. And so it was very disorienting. But then as the filming went on, I was in it for so long. Like, I'd be in the makeup for like 14, 16 hours a day, sometimes 6 days a week. So I got used to his face a lot more than my own. So sometimes I would see my own face in the mirror at my hotel, and I would get freaked out. It wouldn't be as pleasant for me. And then I would get in the makeup chair, and I'd be like, "Oh, there you are." So I actually really liked it as it went on. But in the beginning, it was extremely disconcerting.
And Hellboy's relationship with his dad is an integral part of the story as well. How much did you relish exploring that with Ian McShane?
I mean, yeah, it's the best. Like, one of the great things about this movie is that we get to, the cast is filled out with extraordinary actors and like legendary actors of, and Ian McShane is one of the greats of all time. I mean, he's been an idol of mine. I sort of discovered him late. I mean, I know he did these amazing things. Like, it's funny to come to Britain and people love Lovejoy.
Yeah.
Which we don't have in the States, but people like... And
It's an antiques dealer.
Yeah, but he's like sexy. He's like he's like Magnum PI too. And he's like him in these shirts with like unbuttoned down to here. And I was like, oh, Ian McShane. But I didn't know, I knew like Al Swearingen from Deadwood. That was really where like and then like Sexy Beast and these movies where he plays this like really hard dude. And I remember seeing Deadwood and being blown away and thinking it might be the greatest performance on television of all time. And so when I heard he was doing this, I mean, I was just terrified. I was just completely terrified that I was going to have to talk to him at all. And then he took me out to breakfast at the Wolseley, and he was like so nice and really excited about doing it. And the only problem with working with him was that, you know, I had to be very contentious with him. And then we'd yell cut, and he's such a pro that he would just drop it entirely and go into all these stories about, like, you know, he'd just be like, he's like a charming, lovely guy. And so I'd have to get away from him off set so I could maintain my anger.
Sophie, I know he's sitting right next to you, but what did you admire most about David's portrayal of Hellboy?
Oh, I can't wait to hear this.
Well, where do I start?
This is embarrassing.
What I was delighted about was that we were getting like an incredible proper actor who I've also loved your work. So, you know, to play a part. And so not only has it got all the humour and the kind of gung-ho fun side, also there's a kind of, you know, bleeding heart at the centre of it. So I think that was it. It's only a good actor that can sort of achieve both. And that's what you did.
I'm glad you asked that question now.
David, I know you filmed in Bulgaria, but also here in the UK for some parts. Whereabouts did you film, and did you manage to enjoy any of the local areas?
We were up in Bristol, which is a great city. Now, I had been, when I was 16 years old, I did a homestay in Bristol for a week with a family. And Bristol has changed in the past 30 years. Now it's super hip. Back then it was like nothing but tongue sandwiches. And like, you know, it was like not the coolest. But now it's like really a cool town. So we were up in Bristol for a while. We did like, what is it, Wells Cathedral up there? That's the big cathedral. And shot in Wells Cathedral and shot in a Bristol council house, which is kind of amazing. Like all these apartments, like hundreds of little kids, and like me walking around as Hellboy.
They must have loved it.
They were like alternatively terrified and fascinated, just like 50 of them just walking by, and I'd be like, "Hey kids, what's up? Stay in school," you know. We did shoot a little bit, but it was all in Bristol really that we shot.
Amazing. And finally, David, you're known for your excellent interaction with fans on Twitter and making a few of their Twitter requests a reality. Right. How ready are you for all the Hellboy requests that are coming your way?
I'm ready. We'll see. You know, there have been a couple already which I haven't been able to do, but I have. That's one of the fun things. Like Twitter's such a weird. Social media is such a weird thing in general. Like I go through into weird tunnels with it. You know, where I feel like it's just a weird echo chamber, or it just breeds a kind of online like hate, and everybody just arguing, yelling at each other on any side, and so it's just one thing where it's like I have a certain currency in it, where I have like a bunch of people who are kind of want things, and I'm like, if I can just sort of bring a little bit of joy to the world, just random joy. But I also like when it puts me out, like when it annoys me, when I have to like travel somewhere or like take a week out of my life that I don't want to. I kind of like that too. There's something in like, somebody was telling me something about like in Indian culture where there's a word for being put out and yet doing something for someone else and being put out by it, that they take great joy in this. And I love that concept. It's like my friend was driving in Bombay or something. He couldn't figure out where to go. And this guy was like, I'll take you there. And he gets in the car and drive like way out of the way. And then he gets out and he was so annoyed that he had to like help my friend out. But you could see the joy in his face too. That there's something about, and so that's sort of what I do on Twitter and Instagram sometimes too. And I like that.
Amazing. Thank you so much, David, Sophie. Thank you.